Thank you, crappy-ass keyboard, for muting that volume slider.
Has that been muted this entire time?
For Twitch, it has been.
I'm sorry, Twitch.
Sorry, Twitch. For everything you just missed, Amazon invests $700 million in Rivian, so that's pretty cool. And Volkswagen's ID platform, that all their new EVs are coming on to the United States, is not going to bring us the Hatch, which is the first ever carbon-neutral car. And that is literally all you've missed so far.
Yeah,
so,
that's it. And
there
it's
you go.
Bantering. Anyway, so I want to go back to our extremely long Patreon topic that we've received.
Sounds good.
That I'm actually super into. Also, Patreon, please give to it. Our Patreon link.
Patreon.com/motorcult.
Can we change that?
Yeah, I'm actually going to work on that right now.
So it'll be Carbitrage.
Maybe. You start on AW11, AW10, and I will work on this.
So anyway, we're going to talk about the MR2. That was one of the cars that one of our Patreon subscribers wanted us to go over. So between Berger and I, we've owned every single variant of the MR2, except for an AW11 Supercharged. It's the only one we've not owned.
I would love a supercharger.
But I'm going to start with the one, my favorite, the AW11, AW10. That was Toyota's first foray into mid-engine cars. It was the original mid-engine runabout two-seater, which is what MR2 stands for. It's designed...
Oh, it's midship.
Oh, sorry, midship, yeah. It was originally designed by Saiichi Yamaguchi in 1981.
Mm-hmm.
Saiichi Yamaguchi actually
God, 81. That's nuts.
Yeah. Saiichi Yamaguchi actually designed a lot of really cool stuff, but it's going to be a different day for that. Yeah, this car was... So it was weird. A lot of people said that the AW11 was a ripoff of the Fiero.
Okay. I don't think it was.
Well, this is it. The AW11 had been in production since 1981, or had been in development since 1981. The Fiero since 83. They rushed the Fiero to production. The Fiero beat
they rushed it to production, and it showed.
Yeah. The AW11 was a month after the Fiero. There's no way Toyota's going to design a car in a month.
Yeah, are they under the impression that you can just come up with design, engineer, and produce a car in a month?
Yeah, apparently. I think a lot of that comes to the fact that there was still a lot of anti-Japanese sentiment in the American marketplace in the early 80s.
Well, yeah, that's still around now.
Yeah, but I mean, like, particularly, like, it was way worse. Like, there were,
I'm sure,
like, probably about still a third of the population was, like, that one racist guy that walks in AutoZone.
I shouldn't be laughing at that, but I am.
Yeah, that guy's totally wrong. He's like a relic of a time gone and probably just shouldn't be around anymore.
Boom.
Yeah, exactly. So it's actually cool. The AW11, we knew it to have originally the 4HE engine, which is like the best engine ever.
Well, yeah, it's a 1.6 liter, 16 valve, double overhead cam, non-interference.
Yeah, it was designed in the late 70s. It replaced Toyota's 3TC dual overhead cam T-Series engine that had been in all the Corollas since the beginning of man.
Mm-hmm.
But this is one of those rare times where the replacement engine was actually better because it had a Yamaha designed cylinder head.
Yep. And Toyota has a long history with Yamaha.
Yes. Oh, huge, long history. That's an episode in itself. But what's cool about the 4AG is you originally had the big port and then you had the small port engines. The big port engines you would think are the one you want for like a good build, but the ports were so big they actually killed power. However, when you're turboing one, a big port with a turbocharger is awesome because you get all of the airflow. You might be able to get like 300 horsepower out of it. But
so that didn't. Okay, so forgive me. So the 4A engines, I know that they're listed in top.
Yep.
So like the original one is
blue top.
Blue top.
Yeah. So they had a blue.
Was the big port like a different color top then?
No, it was still a blue top if I remember correctly.
So how do you tell?
It's different intake manifold.
Okay.
Yep. Slightly different intake manifold.
Okay.
You'll see it, the runner where it meets the head is a little bit wider in the big port.
Good lord.
Yeah.
I'm glad you know the nuances on this because I know a lot of the nuances on the second and third.
That's because I had a AW11. I love that car.
I know. I'm sorry.
What's actually, but yeah. So the 4AG is like a really awesome engine, and the thing is, like a lot of people like they don't understand it, but the engine made 116 horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 1.6
really good for the
1.6 liter, made 116 horsepower, and it was designed in like 1977. I think its first production car, I'm gonna have to look it up real quick, was in 1983. But let's see, in 1983,
Yeah.
116 horsepower
That's huge.
is massive
I mean,
because you have to
that's
understand
the BMW 1600 1.6 did that.
the
And
Dodge
it's-
St. Regis police cars.
Can we just talk about the name
I know.
Dodge St. Regis?
It's a terrible name.
I was gonna say it was awesome, but okay.
But it just Dodge did a lot of terrible things. And if you're wondering what the Dodge St. Regis is, and do the right thing, the police car they were driving was a Dodge St. Regis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That had a
cars.
318 cubic inch V8 that made 140 horsepower.
Oh yeah.
Big honking hairy V8.
A lazy, wet American V8.
That's exactly what it was.
Emphasis on the wet.
Yeah, exactly, because that did not burn any of the gas. But anyway,
Patreon.com/Carbitrage.
there we go.
There
Cool.
you go.
Now it's done. The 4AG had almost the exact same amount of power out of a 1.6 liter engine,
That's crazy.
which is precisely not 318 cubic inches.
Explicitly not.
Yeah, is definitely not. Now there's one that we did not get. In Japan, they had the base model AW10, which came with a 3A LU, which is a
gonna say,
1.5 liter.
You were telling me about this.
Yeah, it's a 1.5 liter downdraft carburetor. Totally a pedestrian engine. However, I think if you're wondering how that performs, it's about equivalent to a Fiero with an Iron Duke.
Oof. Like, the 2M4 Fiero.
But the thing is,
That's not good.
that engine was designed for people that wanted a fun car that got fuel economy.
Okay.
So that was the.
And was it good at fuel economy?
Yeah, it was fine.
Okay.
Yeah, like 1983 got like 40 miles per gallon. That's pretty good.
So not as good as a Civic, but...
But at the same time, it's a mid-engine rear-wheel
Right,
drive
right.
CRX HF. Like, that's awesome.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
that's super cool.
It's the epitome of carbitrage. It's the slow car fast.
Yeah,
So,
that's everything I love.
that
Like,
chassis with no power. Oh yeah. Yes,
that
please.
sounds awesome.
Yes,
like,
please.
let me just retain my speed. Like, I feel like every single AW10 died because of the snap oversteer because somebody went 50 miles an hour, reached that, and refused to slow down. Like.
Possibly.
So actually, I should mention that these cars the first generation had horrible snap oversteer problems.
Well, to be fair, they kind of fixed it, kind of didn't, and then they really didn't fix it on the first gen for the second.
This
cars.
was weird about the AW11. Each year they had different sway bar setups to try and fix this.
So they didn't pull a Honda and just do one change and fix it?
No.
Okay.
So what they did, 84, they had front and rear sway bars. 85,
Just front?
85 they had just front with a really small rear.
Okay.
86 they got rid of the rear. 87 they brought the rear back, and then 88 I think they did a different sized front, and then 89 it was like totally different again. So every year it was made, it had a totally different sway bar
They did
setup.
an AW11 and 89?
I think they did, yeah, because I think it was
I thought the...
it was 89. Yep,
Okay.
that was the last year of the supercharged.
Okay, I didn't know the supercharger was 2 years.
Yeah, they did. Yep. But so what's actually really cool about this, the 84s I don't think we ever got those. I think it was
85 to-
85 was the first
yeah.
year. Because to be fair, it was like 3 months at 84.
I think we got them 85 to 88.
Yeah, yeah, because like they were around for a few months, and that's when they were trying to work everything out with the
Yeah.
suspension.
Yeah.
Another cool thing, the 85 is like my favorite.
Is that because you had one?
Yes, but no, actually the reason I like it more, it was the only one where it didn't have a high mount brake light on the spoiler.
Oh, you mentioned that in the Mythbusters crushing thing.
Yeah, it's really cool because that non-high mount spoiler looks so much better than any of the other spoilers.
Yeah, I've seen that in a lot of other makes from around that time because
Yeah,
that
but-
was a year before the mandate.
Yeah, it was, and it was still foam on it, so it
Okay.
was really cool. It was a really rad spoiler. I love it.
Spoilers.
Um,
It's unbelievable to me that those actually held up and withstood the test of time.
And they work really well.
Foam spoilers are actually really good.
Yeah, they're really awesome.
In a lot of cases, they hold up better than their urethane counterparts.
Yeah, the urethane ones always went to hell. Like, they were always terrible. But so yeah, 86 and 87, you had a standard light bulb, like a 1157 bulb, high mount brake light on the spoiler. Then 88 and 89, you had a LED strip.
Huh. Okay.
Then another change that they did in 87 was they changed around the turn signal stocks because the turn signal stocks would actually break on the 85s and 86s.
Okay.
So when they did the mid-model update for the interior, I think it was 87, they went to a much beefier turn signal stock. I like the early ones a lot more. If you look at them, the early ones look a lot like something from like the early 80s or late 70s, where it's just like a simple plastic stock, and the later model wants this big bulbous, sort of like Chrysler-looking thing.
Right.
I don't like that at all.
Did they add functions to it or just make it bulbous?
Bulbous, so it would actually not break. It was a very clever thing that they did, that it would continue to function for years and years.
Interesting.
But the one of the really cool things that they also did with the 8788 on the interior is you could either get a stereophonic or quadraphonic radio.
Okay.
So stereophonic is just in the doors. Quadraphonic, to put little tweeters behind you.
Which one had the speakers in the headrest, or was that not
That
offered?
was not offered in that one, I think.
Okay.
That was offered in the Miata, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, and the Fiero.
yeah,
Derp.
the Fiero, yeah.
Oops.
But yeah, so the AW11 had a lot of really cool stuff going on with it, with the interior, and it's like little things that like you didn't think that they would have done. And then another really awesome, rad thing, they have that little visor that goes over the back window, where it says Toyota on it.
I'm not aware of this.
Yeah, so on over the back window on the AW11s, they had a little plastic visor for aerodynamics
At the top or the bottom?
at the top,
Okay.
and it said Toyota on it. And when it shined down in the light, it would say Toyota in giant letters on the back window when the sun hit it at the right angle. It's like in the afternoon sun. It is designed so it's like about like 3 to 5 o'clock. So like when you're coming home from work, the entire back window will have this huge Toyota shadow across it and like fill almost the entire window. It was really cool. Just the weirdest little design thing, but it looked really, really cool.
I mean, okay.
I think stuff like that. Those are things that they don't do on modern cars. Also, the side vent when they went to the supercharged ones.
Yep.
That went from being this like big, like just hefty zinc piece to actually being made of aluminum, which is like way
And
lighter.
it protruded more on the supercharger one, though, didn't it?
It didn't protrude. It was a different design. So instead of being split horizontally, I think it was split horizontally if I remember correctly.
And is there just one side scoop on those? Or
There's
are there
just
two?
one.
Okay.
Yeah, the other side had that fuel tank. Instead of being split, they switched out as split. So
Okay.
yeah, because I think it was split horizontally. They had 2 separate vents, and instead they just did one big one.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen an AW11 in person. I just don't even know.
Now we should get to the big difference with them, which is the supercharged one,
Which I believe was called the supercharger.
yeah, supercharged. Yep. But it had a electric supercharger on it it was a actual belt-driven supercharger, but it would electrically decouple the pulley from the rest of the supercharger.
Mhm.
So you could still get really awesome fuel economy.
Yep, and it would just bypass the blower.
Yep, it just bypassed the blower. I think
It's like
that,
an air conditioning clutch that they just put on a supercharger.
exactly, yeah, and that's actually really cool because then you still get the cool, the supercharger, and you still have the good fuel economy. Yeah, and then of my MR2 that I had, you could either get T-tops, a hardtop, or a giant sunroof. And I think that
What's the most desirable?
well, not T-tops, but I actually kind of like my giant sunroof that I had because I found out like right as I was about to
Sunroof
sell
cars
it.
are usually more rigid and they don't leak.
Well, as I was about to get rid of my AW11 because I didn't want to
Which
rust
was
out.
a poor decision.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I needed to. That car was. It ended up costing the next person lots and lots of money.
Fine.
However, yeah, getting rid of it was a bad decision because even with that lots and lots of money, it's now worth more than it would have cost because it needed like $3,000 worth of repairs, and that's
Oofta.
gone up $4,000 in value. So he still writes it up.
If he still has it.
Yeah, he still does. I talked to him a couple of years ago. But the sunroof
Of course.
is literally the entire roof. It's almost a Targa top. Like,
Is it just remove or does it just pop up?
it pops up and then you can press the 2 side buttons in and totally remove it out, like
Okay.
outright.
Sure.
But yeah, you can totally 100% remove it. I think that's really, really cool.
That is cool.
So that's pretty rad.
Especially with so little mechanism.
Yeah, it's entirely manual, so it's like really light too. And then when you put it, it's actually, what's funny, the car handles better with the sunroof off.
And then in the
'Cause-
trunk?
You put it in the frunk,
Yeah.
and it now acts as a sway bar. Because the way it mounts in right in between.
I would have loved if Toyota had put a different size sway bar in the sunroof cars.
That would have been really funny, a smaller one. But no, it had a it would fit right in between the two strut towers, and the sunroof had a steel rim around it, so it would act as a sway bar. You would have noticeable handling changes. It would actually handle a little bit better.
That's so ridiculous.
It would have a little bit less snap oversteer with the sunroof off. It was really funny. So I think it was a combination of the front wheels being better aligned and then having more body twist in the center and not at the rear. Why did everything get quiet?
I don't know. I heard. Was that
the dryer turned
Oh, it
on?
was a dryer.
Somebody's running the dryer?
Apparently.
Yes. I'm not even gonna ask. Please make sure you leave your blanket on. I thought I heard something and smelled something, but okay.
Anyway,
Yeah, let's talk SW20, SW21 then.
one second. One last thing.
Okay.
Curb weights.
Oh god, light.
Super light. The big honk and heavy pig of the AW11 was 2,493 pounds for an automatic supercharger. A 85 in a AW10 the carbureted one is 2282.
Oh my god.
Just feather light. My friend Jens, the guy who's a German bodybuilder turned cop, picked up the front of mine without any strain whatsoever. So, of course, that's not where the engine is. But,
Right.
But I mean, for a power lifter to just be able to pick it up like a deadlift,
And
that's pretty
damage
cool.
the car too.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So it was pretty cool. Well, he put it down lightly.
Oh,
It was
well,
light
thank
enough.
goodness. I'm
Yes, he did. And of course, it got car of the year in Japan. But I can keep going on and on and on about all the cool stuff about it. But I'm gonna let you talk about the SW20.
Well, I'm actually going to start with the SW21, but the difference between the SW20 and the 21 is just the engine configuration. The 21 was the 2.2-liter 5SFE Camry engine,
Okay.
which made 134 horsepower, and the SW20 was the 3S GTE Celica All-Track 2-liter turbo.
We should also talk about how the 5SFE is totally the most bulletproof thing.
Pretty much. That engine ran from 1991 in all platforms until 2002 when it was replaced by the 2AZFE 2.4.
I think it's really cool that when they switched from the 4A to the S series engines, they kept the most reliable thing because the 4As were famous at 300,000 miles during engine rebuilds.
Yeah.
That the bearings would still be within factory spec.
Yep.
That's so cool.
Well, I mean, but the 4 is actually more similar to the 3S because it's a Yamaha co-designed engine, just forced induction. And if you leave a 3S GTE, or in Europe if you have a 3S GE, it was the 2-liter NA
Yes.
over there, which was actually more powerful than our 2.2. Still really reliable.
Yeah.
But if you leave them at stock power, they're just as good. I mean, maintain them, leave them at stock power, they'll last
And they can
an
make
eternity.
power. They can make power because that's what Toyota used in the Mark IV Supra race cars.
Right. Yeah. So the 3S GTE, I mean, they were rated at 200 horsepower with their twin entry CT26 turbo.
Twin entry.
Twin scroll.
Oh, it's a twin scroll. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was a twin scroll back in the day. It wasn't a very high-end or modern twin scroll, obviously, but it was 1991. So they really weren't very laggy, and yeah, the actual engines on these, they're BMW strong. I mean, they take 400 horsepower in stock configuration pretty easily.
BMWs are Toyota strong.
No, BMW's been doing strong engines longer.
They both lost world wars, and Japan was better because Japan actually had to get nuked to lose World War II.
So anyway, the SW20 and SW21 were both offered with 4-speed auto and 5-speed manual transmissions. I'm not going to go over the numbers because it just doesn't matter. They were different boxes between the two different final drives, offered with T-tops, sunroof, and Targa. Although not initially with the Targa. That happened in the 1994 facelift. The T-tops are more desirable. However, I had a sunroof car, and I preferred the sunroof. It was a removable panel in my car as well, but it wasn't the full roof. You could tip it up and take it out, and it's stored behind the seats instead of in the front trunk. But
Weird.
It was a relatively small panel, and I think that's just because they did store it behind the seats. These were a fair bit heavier. These went from 2,400 to 2,800 pounds. But again, more power. All of them, they never really fixed this, have snap oversteer. I don't think it was quite as pronounced as an early AW11, but if you got in it and let off in a corner, you will be, the ass is going to be going forward pretty soon.
How often did you spin out your M2s?
Never.
I only did mine once, actually.
Scott spun out my Spider at Brainerd once.
Okay.
I left off oversteer, but that was one time, and he didn't die, so that was good. SW20s, In the U.S., we had standard air brake steering wheel, optional power steering, optional anti-lock brakes. There's really not that much else that was updated from AW11 to SW 2021, except for obviously styling and adding a bit of weight. But a lot of that was crash safety and just it's a much bigger car.
I think it's important to state that the SW 2021, those were the heaviest MR2s ever.
They were, and they're not heavy.
No,
They're 24 to 2,700 pounds. And modern, like, let me give you a reference. A BRZ is 3,100 pounds.
Yeah, and a EF Civic is about 2,000. So it's
yeah, and a Fiat 500 like gas base model pop is 2,350.
yeah,
So it's about the
weighs
same as a
nothing.
base second gen MR2. They're not heavy cars. People are always like, "Oh, it's so porky." Nope. So yeah, there are lots of really good engines. Really, all the combinations were good. Don't blame auto, obviously, but I miss mine, even though I had the crappiest naturally aspirated sunroof. It was a 5-speed, but
Yeah.
91 MR2. That thing was sweet. I had it when I was 14.
Yeah, they're very cool cars. My thing with the SW20s and 21s are every time I've bought one or wanted to buy one, I could just get an AW11. And that's like the AW11's my car.
Matter of preference.
Yeah, entirely.
for
And
sure.
it makes sense, like knowing your
I would
taste
take a
versus mine.
supercharger over like a NA second gen.
Yeah,
In the same condition, absolutely every day of the week.
I think NA to NA, I would take the AW11.
I wouldn't.
Well, my reasoning for that is that with the AW11, it's more of like a visceral, like just car experience. It doesn't have power steering or anything.
Well, neither does the second gen.
Oh, it doesn't. Okay.
Well, not standard. You could option it, but
Uh-huh.
most did not.
But I like the AW11s a little bit more.
I just don't like the AW11 interior.
There are parts that I absolutely hate the seats on the AW11.
I hate the seats and I hate the dash.
The dash I like, actually.
dash.
I really like the
I
dash.
hate the dash.
I like the early steering wheels. The late steering wheels give me cancer.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen the late steering wheel, but
The
yeah.
late steering wheel's like your normal 3-spoke steering wheel, but it's like quasi almost out of the 80s, where it's that awkward kind of era where cars were like when like they were taking 80s cars and they were trying to like modernize them a little bit, so like sticking on 90s bits onto it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just-
I like the angular 3-spoke wheel, but
Yeah, the original one was like the AE86, like Mark II Supra, 2-spoke with a big square horn button.
oh no, I prefer the late steering wheel.
I would. My thing is like that one is. It flows with the interior better. I think that the late model steering wheel just.
I
doesn't
agree with
match.
you. It
Yeah.
flows better with the interior, which I just don't care for.
I would rather have something that flows. Like if I had to take a interior, I'd say the early AW11 or any of the SW20s, because that late AW11 steering wheel just ruins the car, and those awful turn signals they just are the worst things. I can't stand them.
Well, there is some redemption at least. I mean, the points you're making must have rung true with a lot of buyers, because when the third gen came along, it reverted to AW11 curb weight, it reverted to AW11 size,
Yeah.
and honestly, even like the engine configuration pretty much got back to where they were with AW11.
I actually have a question about racing pedigree.
Okay.
With these cars, because I know the AW11 they made a version that was going to go into Group B.
The second gen had a huge racing
Huge
history.
racing pedigree. I think that the third gen they did at least Super Taiku GT300 Super GT.
Yeah. So second gen was Le Mans.
Okay.
Let's see here.
With second gen they raced it in
Southeast Asian
everything.
Supercar Championship. 24 Hours in Le Mans again.
Again.
Yeah. Japanese Grand Touring Championship, now
Yep,
Super GT.
JGTC.
That's okay. That's more of that land speed record.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, they did a lot with that second gen. Like the second gen really was like that was kind of the height of the AW11 or not the of the MR2 was the second gen.
well, I mean, you could get a lot of power out of them, so they were really competitive in racing.
I think the third gen. I think the only thing that really hurt that car is the fact that they forced it to be a roadster. They didn't have a hardtop.
No, I really like that.
Well, no. I mean, I get that you really like that, but I'm talking about like why it didn't sell as well as the other ones. 'Cause I don't think those sold as well, did they?
I don't know. They sold pretty well.
Well, yeah, I mean, pretty well. It's also
Let's see if they have sales numbers.
It's also one where the manual or the automatic transmission was still
The
like
SMT.
God,
yeah.
it was awful.
Don't ever do that. Just put a torque converter auto in it if you're gonna do that.
Yeah, the third generation ZZW30 MR2. That had the it was just like 6-speed, like
It was a 5 or 6.
a 5 or
2004
6
enough for the
sequential.
6-speed,
Yeah, it was like a sequential.
It's like the smart transmission
yeah,
or an
it's-
SMG.
Yeah, it was an SMG. It was not good at all.
It literally was the C56 and the C60 manual with an automated clutch and mechatronic on it. So
Yeah, it was like an early one, so it wasn't good by any means.
right, and the shift buttons were awkward, and it was not good. So
No, it
definitely never buy an SMT.
No, you
ZZW30,
gotta get the
but
manual.
I will say, I mean, the ZZW30, that's probably one of the favorite cars I've ever owned because it's certainly at the price point, but not even considering that, that's probably the second best driving car I've ever driven.
You know, Toyota of the early 2000s gets a bad rap because they killed the Supra by then.
Mm-hmm.
They were in the process of killing the MR2,
Mm-hmm.
and the Celica was not rear-wheel
Hand in
drive.
hand, yeah.
But-
While also killing that, but
I really like that last generation of Celica a lot.
it looks really good.
It drives really good.
It drives okay,
For what it is, for a front-wheel drive sports car, it drives really well. Like,
but considering the parts interchangeability on a lot of stuff between
Oh, yeah, the
MR2 and
MR2 is
the
way
Celica,
better.
I'm just like, what did you do with the Celica?
no, the Celica. Well, the Celica they were aiming after the Integra, and the only
Right.
issue with the Celica was, it was about as good as the Integra, but not quite. Like in a lot of its
heavier
tests.
and more luxurious, and you could get the 2ZZ in the Celica.
That's true, but I mean, like when you like had them like actually like testing, it was
Right.
it.
Yeah, I could see it coming up short.
It came up short barely. Like it still beat the Integra on a number of tests. So, but it's just the Integra was just a little bit better.
I always liked the look of that last generation Celica, certainly. But
Yeah.
then when Scion got introduced in
Ah!
03, then they gave us the TC, and then that killed off the Celica.
Yeah, and it was just.
So we'll
and
see
it
if we
just
ever
went
get a
downhill.
Celica again. I'm sure we will.
I think they will. Yeah, they'll probably
still
call
own the
it
trademarks,
I hope
so.
they take the SFR concept and turn that to Celica.
I hope they take the 4-cylinder Supra and stop calling it a Supra and call it a Celica. Or
Well,
a Celica Supra.
there you go, Celica Supra done.
Perfect. All said and done. But yeah, the third gen, back to 1.8 liters. First one to not have a Yamaha co-designed engine. This used a version of Toyota's 1ZZ Corolla engine, but it was actually the one shared with the Celica called the FED, which had larger intake valves.
So you couldn't get the 2ZZ ever, like
Nope.
anywhere?
You could swap it in pretty easily, but it was never offered with it. The only engine offering was the 1ZZ FED. 1.8 inline 4, 138 horsepower. Good engine, really all you need. Sole offering for manual was a 5-speed. In 2004, they gave you a factory limited slip diff, though, which is pretty nice. And that was also the year that the SMT went from a 5-speed to a 6-speed. 2,200-pound curb weight. Really big aftermarket for this thing, too, surprisingly. Probably
Massive.
not quite as big as a second gen, but it's hard to touch second gen.
No, well, I mean, the first gen as well had a huge aftermarket in the day.
Well, yeah,
So-
for the day. I mean, yeah.
But I mean, well, that's the thing is, today there's like nothing.
Right.
But I mean, like
Comparing
you
it
have
to like
say
other cars that it was
within 10
competing
years,
with back
within
in the day.
10 years of it being made, like,
Mhm.
cause like you could actually get a Hyper Rev magazine just for AW11, and you could. This is one of the few cars you can get a Hyper Rev magazine for every single generation of that car.
Mhm.
Because like the Civic, you can't do that. Like you really can't, because like you can get a Hyper Rev for like EF, EG, EK, and on.
Mhm.
But you can't get it for like a EA or a CVCC. But
Thank God.
if you're wondering what a HyperRev is, HyperRev is this magazine in Japan where they review and list every single aftermarket part available in the country
That
for a
sounds
car.
stressful.
It's actually really, really interesting. Like you have like it's an encyclopedia of everything you can possibly do with the car. It's super cool. So
I mean, I appreciate that because, like, a lot of times, especially when there's a new aftermarket part coming out, you're like, well, I have to be the scapegoat. I gotta find that.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, HyperRev is really cool, and all the MR2s you could get a HyperRev for that, and I think it's just one of the more.
I do like that
interesting things.
name.
HyperRev.
Yeah.
I really wish I wasn't taken. I would totally call this
So looks like
podcast that.
the only motorsport stuff that the Spider did was Super GT, and that was with a grafted hardtop. But boy, that's a cool looking car.
Yeah, and well, actually, when the movie Cars came out, Disney teamed up with Toyota to make a Lightning McQueen MRS
Oh, nice.
for
That's pretty cool.
for the 2008 Super.
Even though that Lightning McQueen is an American car.
Yeah, but if you that was their
And that was
actual
in the
thing.
2008 season.
Yeah,
so
it
that was
was.
at the end of the Spider.
That's awesome.
I have it on my phone here.
But yeah, the Spider, it's still such a great car. I will probably own one again at some point, but just the interior quality compared to first and second gen, holy crap.
I think another thing we should actually mention,
Mm-hmm.
by the way, for the third gen, is that car didn't only have a racing pedigree; it actually won a lot of stuff too, and a lot of people don't give it credit for that because it's a
Because they
convertible.
don't know. Well,
Yeah, well, they write it off because it's
I'm
convertible.
just blown away that everyone hates convertibles. We should probably do a topic on that and try to find somebody that hates convertibles and talk to them.
Can you look up the Toyota VM180 Zagato? Because apparently there's a Zagato special bodywork for this car.
Yeah, it's the last thing on the Wikipedia page.
I'm curious what it looks like.
You want me to look it up on
Yeah,
this thing?
yeah, because this computer is a brick. So I can't really do that much with it.
I can't believe there's no image of it on there.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? But, yeah, if you ever played Tokyo Extreme Racer, you would know how awesome the AW11 is.
That is not an attractive car.
Oh, it looks like a Zagato. Well, that's a Zagato design.
Oof. Okay.
Good lord, that's bad.
Yeah, that's not a good looking car.
That's really bad.
Um.
That looks like a Mitsuoka.
Yes, it does.
That is not good looking.
When you can't change the A pillar. Oh man.
Oh, Jesus, that looks bad.
Oh, look, it's an MR2 Spider. Oh, it's an SMT. Oh no.
How awful would you like your car?
Oh, let's make it look horrible and then put in the sequential.
Like, how badly do you want it to look? Can you just ruin your car? Can you have it in silver too, so I can get to look at all the disgusting body lines?
That second MR2 I owned, the shell I bought, that was painted matte black, but was originally silver, so I reverted it. I really wish it wasn't silver. The first one was black. I liked that.
Yeah, that looked much better.
But anyway, I'm not sure what the best color was on these. Well, on the Zagato, no good color exists.
I'm gonna have to say the red
Yeah,
or the yellow.
red's pretty good. I think they offered like a really nice blue.
I can tell you what the worst color is.
Oh, silver?
No, green with a tan top.
Oh.
That super common green in the late 90s, early
I
2000s.
did at least put a red convertible top on my silver car.
Yeah, no, yours looks cool.
That helped a lot.
I think I still see a car driving around from time to time.
I was offered it when I owned the Boxster, and I said no because I had the Boxster.
You fool!
I know.
I think a
So,
Boxster was a
whoops.
poor decision on your part.
It was.
Yeah, Boxsters are terrible. I could tell you that. Boxsters are terrible. They're ugly as sin, and they
I
just suck.
actually liked how it looked.
Oh, God!
I
Helen
liked the
Keller.
interior too, but everything was good except for that engine, and I didn't have the
Did you-
IMS problem. I had every other problem,
Yeah, it's
including some that just don't happen. So I'm glad the guy who bought it loves it.
good. I'm glad he does too. The guy's clearly a masochist.
I think it's because I repaired everything that was wrong with it, and this is one of those cars where somebody buys it and then just defers maintenance forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and then I had to fix everything all at once. So, the Spider, yeah, there you go. We've pretty much touched on it. That's that thing in a nutshell.
I was originally gonna do the Camry, but the Camry is just like way too long.
I saw that in the notes, but yeah, that is a lot. That's a lot to think about, and I know some things about some Camrys. So.
Well, the thing is, the Camry not only is it a lot, it's a really convoluted history. Because the Camry came out of the Carina, and the Carina was a cross of the Corona and the Celica, but it came before the Celica, so it's like a sports sedan coupe thing, and the Celica became an actual sports car. It's just, I'm trying to make sense of it still. So,
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm fairly on the up and up with these things, and I have no idea what you just said.
yeah, the Camry's actual history is this really weird thing. Because it's not just like we're going to make a midsize sedan.
All right.
Because the first car to have the Camry name was actually a sports sedan.
Was it a Toyolette?
No, it was the car that actually had the Camry name was Toyota. It's called the Celica Camry. So it was supposed to be a four-door version of a Celica, based off a Carina platform. It's just super weird. So
Um,
it's very odd.
well, whatever they did, it evolved into like one of the best-selling sedans of all time.
Yeah, so anyway, trying to get that figured out. We were originally going to do that, and I'm just like, I ran out of time.
I just wanted
in the
to
week.
talk about the 1MZ FE. Or
Yeah.
Sorry, the 1VZ FE. That's
One
the one.
VZFE, the
2VZ?
2.5, the 2.5.
2VZ, yeah. The 2.5 liter.
Yeah, we will. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
And we're also
the 1VZ is a 3-liter single overhead cam in the 4Runner, and the 1MZ is the aluminum that started in '94. So, whoops.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what? How cool can a car be where you can get a manual V6 wagon?
5-speed.
Yeah, it's the coolest thing in the world.
That 2.5 is so cool.
The V20 Camry is really cool.
The V20 Camry with the 2VZ FE and the 5-speed is like
In a
the
wagon.
epitome. Yeah,
It has to be a wagon.
It has to be a wagon.
Because actually, the wagon rear end on those cars looks like especially good looking. Anyway, we're not talking about
not
the
the
Camry.
We'll
We're
get to
getting
this
to
level
that.
of autism later.
Let's talk about your next topic here.
Okay, so this one I didn't pull from the internet. I just typed it because it's just one of these things. So we've heard forever about buying a first year, like of any particular new make and model is a bad idea. Like,
Yeah.
why?
Well, for a while, I'm going to use, actually, let's talk about the AW11. There's a lot of stuff from the 84, 85 first year, AW11, that does not transfer over to other cars. They had a lot of weird stuff on it. They had the smaller clutch in it. They had a bunch of different weird things. on
Right,
it.
but does that make it not worth buying?
I would say not worth buying, but avoid. There's a
Okay.
difference between avoid and, like, run for the hills.
Okay, so how do you
So-
quantify that difference?
Well, the difference is like a void would be like you should.
Give me examples of cars that are like a void and which ones are run for the hills for like a first year for problems.
The Mark V Volkswagen Jetta with the 2.5.
Okay.
Avoid it. It's
The
not
first year?
First year, because
Okay.
the 2005 and 6 first year really.
Yeah.
Half of 2005.
Sure.
They were the only 2.5 liters with timing chain issues. And then the timing chain's on the backside, so it's like a VR6, so it's like a huge pain in the ass to do it. But after 2006, they were all solid. Like they
Okay.
were all like way better built. They had
Okay.
a totally different updated design for the timing chain guides.
Of course.
And then they were bulletproof.
Yeah,
So
I know
that's
the
an
2.5s are
example.
really solid.
As
I
a-
did not know that the early ones had problems.
Yeah. As opposed to avoid at all costs anything with a 2.0 T.
Oh, yeah.
That's not totally.
But that's
like
that's not just a first year thing. That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, but I mean like, well, I guess
We've covered at great length that you should not buy any corporate 2-liter turbo.
no, but that's just a really good example of a
Right.
avoid. I can't think of anything that's like a absolutely just run for the hills. I mean, maybe an Edsel, like
Just the first year?
I mean, well, especially the first year. I'm
Yeah.
sure British Leyland probably had, or just British cars in general had a lot to do with.
But
this
again,
becoming
that's
a thing.
that's a tough thing because we're specifically talking first year,
Yeah.
where they improved and got buyable after that. Because there's a lot of cars that were just introduced and were just shit piles the entire time. And
I guess
a couple examples I've got were like the first year of Mercedes M156, so the 63 AMG engine, they had defective head bolts. So the
Yeah, it's a
tops of
huge
the
problem,
head
yeah.
bolts would just
Break
fail
off.
once in a while, and it would mix coolant and oil, and you'd never know, and you'd smoke your engine. So don't ever buy an 08 unless you've got a receipt or you're planning to do it.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things where it's kind of run for the hills.
I think another example. I just totally blanked on my example. Oh, it's not the first year, but it's the first 2 years.
Okay, that counts.
Fox body Mustangs,
Interesting.
totally gutted by emissions.
Oh.
For 78, 79. 80, they revised the catalytic converters.
Mm-hmm.
You actually gained like 10 horsepower, like 10, 15 horsepower, which I like when you're
Gotta
at,
love
like
the two-way catalytic converter.
it's when you're dealing with 120 horsepower, 20 horsepower is a big deal.
That's a huge deal.
But it's like the 78, 79s were really particularly gutless, and then 80 through 83 were quite gutless, and then 84 through 86 carburetor is still okay,
Well, the one to get is the aero front.
and then you have the terrible aero fronts and the fuel injection after 86. So yeah, really the correct answer is only buy the 86 Mustang.
Get the aero front. The later
That's the
ones is better.
literally the only Mustang worth buying.
Yeah, the aero front's really, really good. You're going to want to go for the later fuel injected cars.
I guess I'm trying to think like where this would have possibly come from.
Well, that's the thing. I honestly think it was back when cars were like paradigm shift changing every year or every 2 years.
Yeah.
And like the first one of those was maybe a brand new all aluminum engine with no steel liners in the
You know what?
50s or something.
No, I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna have to get pre-war on it. Hit it. Okay, thank you. I think it probably would have come from the Model T.
Okay.
Because the Model T was the first car they ever did a mass production on.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you, there were production errors galore that first year.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the thing is like, where it comes from is there are things that you cannot test for that have to
I
come
don't
from
think
real
that's
world
fair, though.
existence.
Because there weren't car years then. It was literally just when was the car made? December 31st, 1919? Okay, it's a 1919.
Well, that's yeah, sure. But I mean, the first year or so of production date.
Okay.
It's not model year; it's production date that matters. Because
Right.
there's things that will come up during production that you find out, like the head bolts on those on the Mercedes AMGs.
And there's a lot of stuff like that too. Even when Mercedes introduced their 3.5 liter V6 in '05, the first year and a half they had kind of faulty timing chain cam gears on the front of the balance shaft.
Just have another one.
Okay, go for it.
The 88, 89 Honda Civics and CRXs, clutch cables and pedal assemblies, they break.
Oh.
The pedal assembly.
Ah.
The reason is, on the left-hand drive models, the ones in America, Honda engineers did not account for 30 years of a slight tug to the left.
That's what she said.
But yeah, you have to think about this. If you have something going like that with just a little bit of force for 30 years,
Yep.
it's going to fatigue the metal down there.
Yep.
So it's
I
going
love
to
how you
break
just
it.
pre-war build the MacBook with your knuckles.
But what it would do is you had a slight tug to the left on the pedal assemblies on early Civics, and they never accounted for that. So after 30-odd years, 200,000 miles of pushing that clutch all the time, if it wasn't perfectly lubricated at all times, which I guarantee you it won't be, it will break the pedal assembly at some point. You'll first hear like a little bit of like kind of a squeaking, creaking noise, and eventually, as Jana found out several times in the CRX, the pedal will just break
Oh yeah.
and
Yay.
smack you in the ankle.
Ow.
Yeah, and then
then trap you in a Whole Foods parking lot.
and you're usually in neutral when this happens,
Ow.
or you're stuck in like the wrong gear.
People ask me why I'm afraid to drive manual transmissions.
It's the CRX. It's not that she's afraid. It's just that now she has a phobia of it breaking.
I just get intense anxiety
She drives a.
when I'm driving manual, so I stall a lot, and then that gives me more anxiety because I stall in the middle of uptown on a hill.
And it breaks.
Oh.
But like she can drive a Mazda fine. It's just like she has these horrible memories of the CRX.
It's
That's
like
understandable.
But
it's like the Vietnam vets.
yeah,
Oh, the PTSD
Yeah.
thing?
PTSD. But it's like
I love how you just equated your manual CRX
so
thing
what
to
what they did in the CRX.
That's obviously like
What they did in
you
the
know,
Civic
no
CRX.
exaggeration.
What they did in the Civic CRX in '90 though, instead of it being two tack welds that held the pedal into the assembly,
Yeah.
they just did one single all the way around weld, and then it fixed it.
Okay.
So
Well, if it fixed it, sure. Okay.
But
that's a good example, though.
that's-
Something that they're like, oh, whoops.
yeah, it's a really weird thing, and it was just somebody thought of that, and then it turned out years and years later to actually be a real thing. Like they had
It's
no
impressive
cause
they got
action.
ahead of that by like 29 years.
That's how like Honda from that era, because it's like Soichiro Honda was an engineer, and so he's like the engineers led Honda like until the early 2000s. Like it was engineers had final say on everything. So I thought it was kind of cool.
Can you think of something that was better the first year than it was at subsequent years?
Yes. Jaguar, is it the Jaguar E-Type that's a really pretty one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
They had the hood latches on the outside
Those
of
were
the car.
straps. Yeah, leather straps.
Those
in the
looked
first
really
year.
good.
Okay.
That looked really cool.
Series 1.
Yes. Anything that was debuted in 1972.
Oh.
Right before emissions.
Oh.
I would say literally any car. Doesn't matter what it is. I guarantee.
I
it will
would
open better.
go one beyond that and say everything 73 as well.
Well, okay,
'Cause
well,
that's
I
the
guess,
year
yeah.
before bumpers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. There's 73. So yeah, I was.
Well,
getting that mixed up, yeah.
emissions and the bumpers I think might have been 2 separate years.
Yeah, I think emissions were 73 and bumpers were 74.
I know the bumpers were 74. Emissions were 72 or 73. I don't know.
Trying to
But
think.
anyway, like, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, by
The,
default, the Hakoska C110 generation Skyline, because that debuted in 1972. 1973, they killed off the GTR, the only one you wanted. In 74, they ruined the front end. So there's that.
The BMW E38 7 Series, 1995 was its first year. And that year, that only year, it had a 4-liter double chain V8
Perfect.
with the same horsepower
Perfect.
as the later single chain 4.4 V8, and it had the bigger 5 HP 30 automatic, which is indestructible.
It's way better.
And the 5 HP 24 that came after it needs very, very judicious fluid changes, otherwise it fails.
I'll say FSI versus TSI 202s.
Yeah, FSIs are better.
Yeah,
They are. As long as you change cam followers and delete the balance shaft, you're fine.
yeah, that really helps a lot.
They're really strong, too.
All right, so speaking of such,
Yep.
Deferring maintenance.
Yeah.
We had a listener.
Oh, God,
That
what are
sent
you
me-
reaching for?
I'm getting this list that a listener sent me. It is a copy of a repair order for a car.
Okay, what is it?
It's a 2,000 volt second Passat with
Oh.
2.8 liter V6 manual. This person did not do any prior maintenance, I think,
Okay.
because it's got about 63,000 miles on it.
Wait, okay, wait. I heard this right. 2,000 Passat?
Yeah, 63,000 miles on it. So it's in very, very
Is it a 1.8T?
no 2.8 V6.
The 5-valve.
5 valve.
It's a
Yeah,
good engine.
It's a great engine. Yeah.
Is that an auto or manual?
It is a manual.
Oh,
It's super
should
desirable.
buy that thing.
No,
Oh,
this person did zero maintenance. They did oil changes.
oh.
I think they probably inherited it, and they're like, "This is an old car," and they just
Yeah.
like didn't do anything.
I bet it did like 500 miles a year for 10
Yeah.
years,
And
then it got given to somebody, and
they
then
just
driven a
ruined it.
bunch with
And-
no maintenance.
And they said, "quote I'm gonna drive it into the ground." Like, yeah, you are, and you're gonna get fucking hosed, and I hate you. But
I mean, I'm not like that Passat's kind of whatever, but like that's the best configuration.
it's my issue is more with the mentality of I'm gonna drive into the ground. It is
Yeah.
just a sign of pure
well, have you
arrogance.
seen Tucker's post today on his truck?
Yeah, it's totally shot.
Like the little head gasket's leaking on the outside. I think I'm just gonna get rid of it instead of throwing a head gasket at it. I'm like, dude,
What?
head gasket's gonna cost like a nickel for that thing. Just do a head gasket. You love that stupid truck. He's like, because of the frame rust. I'm like, because of the thing you knew about the entire time and have been progressively having patched.
Yeah, like just deal with it.
Okay.
But anyway, so
People
I'm
need to
gonna
maintain
give
their
you my
shit.
technician's notes on this car. Again, this person has only done oil changes with conventional oil, not synthetic.
My technician's notes.
Can I mention driving things into the ground for a second?
Yeah.
I drove an Accord that should have been immediately scrapped for 2 years.
Yeah, that transmission sure has a mind of its own.
Oh, it did. Like, I mean, I had third and reverse, and, well, sometimes third, sometimes reverse, mostly first and second.
No, you didn't have first. You had second though.
Oh, yeah. So, like,
You had,
You occasionally had fourth too, right?
it had at least 2 neutrals.
yeah,
in it.
it
Okay.
was.
When we
So
s-
a variable 4L60.
Yeah, variable 4L60.
Yeah, and I mean, there was so much rust, we couldn't do oil changes on it. And, like,
I literally could not get that in the air.
I
Yeah.
had to replace the battery terminals. I had so many issues with this car, but I still, I kept it alive for 2 years. So these simple issues people are having, and they go, "Oh, I'm just gonna get rid of my car." I look at them like they're crazy because it's like,
You
that's fine.
you
can
went through
fix
hell and
it.
back to keep that car running. Like
Yeah, I was like, you don't need to give up on cars.
if
like
you're
that.
driving a car into the ground, you just have no business owning a vehicle. Like, you should be able to keep that thing alive forever. Like, if Jana's able to keep a car that should have been lying dead alive with 300,000
Well,
miles
you just
on
have to
it.
get used to what it wants and what it
Yeah.
needs, and then drive it accordingly.
So this car, what they did is they've just deferred maintenance, and they probably deferred about maybe $2,000 worth of maintenance, and now it's turned into like an $8,000 problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna list off my technician notes here. No oil on dipstick, 4 quarts low. So this technician was doing an oil change originally, and that's all I came in for.
So it was going in for an oil change.
I said an
4
oil
quarts
change.
low.
Oil change. The window was stuck down, and it has a little bit of an oily smell. That was
Okay.
That's what they asked about.
Well, that's probably accurate.
Yeah. So no oil on dipstick, 4 quarts low. Last oil change was with conventional oil, requires synthetic, and overdue. Power steering pressure hose was seeping and all over the place. Fluid was filthy. Serpentine belt was worn. Tensioner needed replacement. Engine needs degrease because of several oil leaks.
Shocking.
Timing belt was cracked. Do not start until belt is replaced.
So you're pushing it out of the shop?
Yeah, we're pushing that.
The listener's shop will be pushing it out of the listener's shop?
Yeah, that would be getting pushed out, I think. That can't be good. Valve cover gaskets, tensioner seals, cam plugs, very common, but it's a piece of maintenance. It requires the cams coming out. Small exhaust leaks at both flex pipes. Wiper blades are flying apart. Heater control bulbs are all burnt out. Every bulb inside the car is burnt out.
I like full brightness.
Yeah, 10-year-old tires are cold cracked with separating tread, just like Paul Walker. Brake hoses are cracked, again, just like Paul Walker. Brake rotors are rusted excessively. 5 to 6 millimeters on left on pads. Brakes still grinding. So
Yikes, that's a lot of pad material to have grinding brakes.
yeah, that's it. But yeah, it apparently needed axle boot and engine mounts and everything. The engine mounts apparently wore out because of the excessive oil leaks. They were perfectly fine until the rubber was oil saturated.
Yep, I could see that. Probably just swelling and blowing out.
But yeah, this listener did note that we should probably just remind people, do your maintenance on your car. If
Sounds
you're
like
not,
that thing really only needs a timing belt and an oil change, though. The rest of it's just kind of...
because some of those things, like the timing belt and the oil change, will be what it absolutely requires.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
Usually,
But, like, is it really worth doing another $4,000 in maintenance to keep a 2.8 Passat 5-speed on the road?
well, the brake hoses you really need to do.
If they're swelling, yeah.
I
If
imagine
they're cracked,
I know these brake hoses, and when they crack, it's like the cracking on timing belts. It's
Okay,
like
fine.
the same kind of rubber, where it's like it has no give. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with these, but these are shearing teeth off of timing belts at 60,000 miles.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
That's
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah, that same
It's
rubber.
not as bad as a 3-liter, but...
No,
oh.
it's the same rubber that's used on those brake hoses. So
The
once they-
BMW brake hoses just swell shut, and then you'll get brakes that engage and then won't disengage.
that sounds great. That's the way that's designed to brake correctly.
Pretty much. It's a fail-secure system.
I think the window being stuck down is another issue, where the regulator just flew apart.
I didn't
so-
actually catch that.
I
So the
might have
window
missed
was
that.
down?
The window regulators on those fail. The cables.
Is it as
snap.
bad as the... oh, shoot. What has horrible regulators?
Those Volkswagen products.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, but no, it's you can get them where if you get really lucky, they'll snap on the way back up. Then they'll go all the way down. They'll fall 3 feet and shatter.
Oh.
Even better. That's something I've seen before.
Who made those timing belts?
The time of Volkswagen Auto Group, I guess.
No, but who was their OEM? That had to be Contitech or...
No, I think it was.
Daco?
I think it was actually Fabby Bilstein.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Also, Corey's playing with a lighter. What's that? That's gonna go well.
But yeah, no, this reader just wanted us to mention that because I've seen it too with my shop where a lot of people just don't do their maintenance. They don't feel they need to, and they'll just repair it as it comes, and they get whacked with like $8,000 of absolutely needs to happen tomorrow repairs.
Well, to the listener's defense, it sounds like 75% of that list is not as urgent on a vehicle that is not going to be restored to perfect.
Well, yes, but still, these are things that are required for the car to be...
Things that could have been avoided.
Yeah, these are all things that have happened due to maintenance. So, yeah, but I mean, it's still... I mean, that timing belt's a huge job. That's probably about $1,200. I know that the tires are going to be about $600, and then that window regulator is $400. So that's already $2,000 plus tax. That they have to put $2,200 in to make it happen.
Are they gonna do that though?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the customer. I
Well,
mean,
hopefully they keep us surprised to see if
I
they
can-
actually.
I'll reach out to the listener probably next week. See if he has any updates on it. If he didn't respond.
See if the car got pushed out into the scrap heap. If they picked it up and started driving it as is with an oil change.
You know, in my shop, I've had a couple of people that just pick up their cars after I show them their timing chains being removed off the cam without loosening anything. And then they just insist on driving it home. And then they call me 20 minutes later and say, my car made a weird noise. Yeah, but it did.
Now it didn't run anymore.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah, that's what I told you. You had to spend $3,000. You want to go to work. Now you have to spend $8,000.
TSI probs.
Exactly.
Sorry, hashtag pound TSI problems.
Yes. Anyway, so there's
Well,
that. Do your maintenance.
On that kind of morbid note, I hope you guys enjoyed some of those 4L60 memes I was throwing up on the screen
Thank
as that
you.
was happening.
Um,
How many neutrals do they have? But anyway, as you guys know, I am shopping for a Fiat 124 Spider, and I have found one in Hollywood. That's a 2017, and it somehow has 78,698 miles on
this
it.
masochist has a black-on-black car in SoCal. What is wrong with them?
I think it's actually gray.
Whatever. You know, I mean, dark color
But
on
yes,
dark color.
Yeah. So anyway, I really was looking for one of the two top trim levels. So a Lusso, which is the more grown-up leathery interior
Yeah.
one, or an Abarth, which has the LSD and the loud shouty exhaust on it. The Classica is the base trim. That's what this one is. And I kind of set myself limits. So if I could find a Classica under 15, I'm like, okay, probably go that route. If I can find an Abarth under 19, I'll probably go that route. Scott
That's
sent me this
13.
one. It's
That's worth it.
13,000, and I'm pretty sure I can get it for
10.
no. I think they probably paid 10 at auction. So I'm hoping, considering it's out of warranty, and this is the only one currently for sale out of warranty, because it's a 2017, that I can get it for maybe 11.5 or 12.
Yeah, I'd say go for 11.5.
So I'm gonna start at them with 11.5. They just bought it at auction, so I know they paid very little for it. But yeah, I'm hoping to end up with this car so I can lower it, put big wheels on it, go beat the crap out of it on the track.
So when you haggle, are you just go there in person?
No,
And then
it's
start-
in Hollywood. What I do is I ask a bunch of details about the car, figure out what's not perfect with it, and then ream them on that. And then they usually accept my offer eventually.
That's fair. Okay.
But if they don't play ball, I'll just wait for an Abarth and pay more.
There, and I think the Barth idea is a perfectly okay thing, but this would be a great car too.
But I can add heated seats to this, which is a big deal that the Abarth has
Huge.
stock, and I can add an LSD to it for 1,000, which is the only other thing. Same engine, same transmission as the Abarth.
Probably cheaper insurance too.
I don't know. It's expensive either way. Interestingly enough, I don't know if I told you this, but I got an insurance quote on the Tesla P90D Ludicrous, which I plan to get in the fall, and holy hell, those are expensive to insure.
Oh yeah, like how much?
Mr. Wags, I think, is like $225 per 6 months. The FJ is about $370 per 6 months. The Fiat's $680 per 6 months, which is
Okay.
hella expensive. The Tesla's $987 per 6 months.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So my van, I just want you to know, for like the most over insurance I could ever possibly get is like 124 for 6 months.
You must have a better record than I do.
Oh, it's flawless. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never been street racing in my life. Never ever, never been to Mexico.
That would be illegal. Mexico,
On
Minnesota.
That
illegal.
bombshell. We should talk about things we learned today that we're happy about. Not just today, but we have learned in the past. Jana, you're still here.
Oh,
You haven't said
yeah,
anything.
I am here. I don't really have.
I gotta start adding this to the notes so I remember.
So
Yeah.
you remember?
I don't know. Should I just give a random word etymology since that's
Yeah,
what
tell
I-
us where avocado came from.
Etymology?
Oh God. Yeah, I keep on confusing entomology, which is the study of bugs, with entomology, which is the study of
Etymology.
where words come
Int
from.
versus et.
E-N
Yeah.
versus E-T.
Oh, entomology versus etymology.
Yes, that's what I said.
Oh.
So let's do glitch. That's the word in front of me. Glitch is possibly Yiddish. They don't know. But it sounds Yiddish, so I assume it is.
That does sound Yiddish, yeah.
But it's basically the word means.
Son of a Yiddish.
Yeah. So that's my fact for today, because I was not
Yiddish.
prepared with animal facts. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I
well,
will
I was
create
hoping
a
for-
list.
if you
for
can just come up with an
future
animal
reference.
fact before we're done, I'm sure people would want to hear that. But I'll give you some time, and I'll let Burger and I go. Burger, you've got a fuzz on your beard.
Do I?
Yeah.
This
No,
blanket
no,
sheds
the
like
left side.
crazy.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was a big boy. It was a
Yeah.
big honker.
This,
And that was on the screen.
perfect.
Perfect. So there you go. So you look like you have a big blue dot on your body.
Maybe I do. Your turn.
All right. Something I learned about cars that Toyota's first post-war design. I learned this while studying the Camry. Their first post-war design was largely based off the Beetle, and they were allowed to do that because Toyota was one of the only manufacturers after World War II from the Axis not to have a partnership with an allied company.
Oh,
So like Isuzu had Hillman, and Auto Union had somebody else. Like they all had like somebody that they were working with. Toyota did not. So Toyota ended up making a car as like a front engine, rear wheel drive, water cooled Volkswagen Beetle with an engine that was based off the combustion chambers of an Auto Union V16 racer from prior to World War II.
okay.
Really, really cool car. It was a 1 liter. It made like 30 horsepower.
Oh yeah. Now we talking.
But just so you know, the Ford Flathead made like 85 out of like 4 liters.
Oh, I know. It was 2.2.
2.2, but still, I mean, it was about the same power to weight ratio as a Flathead. That's pretty cool. So that,
Yeah, but
that
the Flathead makes that wet V8 burble.
yeah, this one just sounds like a side valve 4. So
Okay,
Ew,
this
gross.
week all of my animal facts are from Australia.
yay.
The fingerprints of a koala are so indistinguishable from humans that they have been confused at crime scenes.
Why have there been so many koalas at crime scenes?
That's what I'm
Because
thinking.
koalas are actually homicidal creatures.
Right?
Oh,
Little do they
they kill
know.
for fun.
Yeah,
It's
they
like
kill for
humans,
fun.
cats, and koalas.
Yeah, they
Little do
kill
they
for
That would be a
know
great
they're looking
podcast name.
for the wrong, like the poor humans'
I
fingerprints
can't
that they
believe
find
you've done this.
actually didn't do it. It's the dang koalas. So now we need to go free some criminals in Australia
All because of koala bears.
because koalas are obviously committing the crime.
I love Australian wildlife so much.
That's way more interesting than my fact, which is just old $1,000 BMWs are more reliable than modern Toyotas.
That's shocking.
Yep.
That's utterly shocking. Well,
There you go.
on that bombshell, it's time to end our show. Thank you for listening to Carbitrage, which is
So proud of you.
actually the name of our podcast. We will be with you next week. Please subscribe to our Patreon. Give us money so
Patreon.com/Carbitrage.
so we can afford to continue doing this. Thank you.
Basically,
very
just
much.
to fund our booze addiction. So
And
and
to
to pay for
actually-
hosting
and
and
to
eventually the
Pay
equipment.
for all of this. Yeah.
Well, we gotta cover the booze first, and then it'll start chipping away at the equipment, and then maybe we can actually do things.
If you've gone through our episodes, we've been drinking a lot less booze to try and even out our budget here. So.
It doesn't work, but we've been trying.
Yes. Anyway, thank
Alright.
you for listening, and we will catch you next week.
Bye bye.
Bye.